Hi guys, my name's Tom. I'm here to do a series of graffiti art workshops with you. Basically we're going to be working on paper to look at our graffiti sketching and our urban arts work. Over those 6 workshops we're going to be doing some letter design, how to make your letters powerful, how to add things like drips and cracks and shines. We're going to be looking at classic graffiti characters, how to do those. Some classic do's and don'ts when you're sketching graffiti lettering and the classic mistakes that people make and trying to avoid those. And then we're going to build up to hopefully have a little go at seeing some spray techniques so that, you know, when you're the right age, you're getting hold of a spray can when you should be, when it's appropriate, and you can learn some nice effects about how to get some decent spray stuff going on as well. So come along with us, hopefully watch all 6 workshops and enjoy. I hope you learn something. Hi guys, so welcome to workshop 1. This workshop's going to be all about doing a basic graffiti word. Some effects, some colour, how to space everything correctly, and just really how to start sketching graffiti letters and how to make them work. Hi guys, welcome to workshop 1. Just very quickly, for this graffiti sketching workshop, stuff you're going to be needing: pencil, rubber, felts, obviously some paper, cards, nice to have. Definitely having like a black marker pen or a black felt tip is going to be really useful. Having some highlighters is really nice if we're going to do some colour work. Rubber pencil sharpener, super helpful too. But really just stuff that you'll have around the house or will be easy to get. So we don't need to go out and get anything too special or too fancy. If you've got Sharpies, great. If you've got special felt tips, awesome. So we're just going to get started with our basic lettering workshop. So first things first, if you want to try and choose a word that's nice and simple to use, you can go with your name, or you might want to start thinking about what tag or tag name you want to use, and think about the amount of letters in that for your piece of A4 paper. So you may think about doing something that's 3, 4, 5 or 6 letters is probably like the ideal amount. So I'm randomly just going to choose a word to go with, and the word I'm going to do today for you in graffiti style is just the word peace. It's nice and simple, good letters. And first things first is I'm sketching out to get my proportions right on my paper. So what I'm doing is, with my pencil, is I'm thinking about how many letters it is. It's 5 letters, and I'm doing some small marks just to make sure that I'm getting my spacing right on the paper, because it's a classic to sort of sketch away and then run out of paper. So I've got my markers all in pencil so it can be rubbed out later, and then I've got my basic letters. So you might not be able to see this, and that's fine if you can't right now, but I'm just sketching in my letters so that I know where I'm spacing them for. Just in one line, nothing too crazy, so that might not show up very well, but at least I now know that my letters are going to fit as long as I stick to what I've kind of sketched and drawn. Then I'm going to start blocking out those letters. So when we're doing graffiti lettering, we want our lettering to be big and bold, impactful and colourful. So you want a lot to add colour to. You want a lot to fill in inside your letters. So you want those big classic bubble letters or sharp letters that are really kind of bold. So let me start out with that. So I'm starting with my P, again just in pencil, and I'm fitting it inside that space. Now I really like it when the letters overlap, so they kind of button up next to each other basically. So you can see I've got my P and my E in, and I'm just going super simple. Most important thing when you're sketching or when you're painting or when you're doing anything like that, just be confident with your lines. Don't sketch like this. Do a big line. If you're not happy with it, you can always rub it out and start again. But the bigger your line is, the more confident that and bold that line is, the more likely you're going to be able to make that work. So again, you can see from there, hopefully you'll be able to pick up the pencil lines on the camera, but we've got our sort of basic lettering. Next most important thing is the insides of our letters have got to match up. So where I'm doing the inside of that P, I want to make sure that this bit is matching up with this bit. So you could always do some little lines there, making sure that those lines match up. Same with the inside of my P. I want to make sure that this line is matching up with this line, and that this is looking like the perfect sort of shape. Yeah, nice and simple. I haven't put any embellishments on that. It's just to get us started with what that should look like. Next up, I'm going to move on to using a pen. I'm going to use a Posca pen for this, just so you guys can see it really clearly. But you could just as easily be using a Sharpie or a felt tip. Now, I'm going to go straight for that outline, and then we'll think about colouring later on, maybe in a different workshop, or maybe we'll add some colour in this one. But I really want to get that outline on so you guys can see how that works. So, again, nice and bold lines. What I don't want to do is be sketching away with like a shaky hand and without confidence, because it just doesn't look as good. Just already looks sketchy. You can see what I mean, like the lines are broken, it's not really working. So when I'm going, I'm doing a thing that I would call going point to point. So I'm choosing a point on the letter, and I'm going to try and make my line go all the way from that point round to that point. And then what I often do is I'll go twice round on that to really make it thick and bold and powerful. Yeah, that's why card's quite nice, guys, as well, because then if you're using card, you can kind of go with the pens without it bleeding through too much, or without it kind of ripping up the paper. If the paper's too thin, then felts and paint pens and that sort of stuff will ultimately like start to rip up a little bit. I'm just gonna place my pen a minute, possibly. This one seems to be working okay, actually, no. With these pens, you have to press them down a little bit to get the ink to come out, to get the paint to come out. And just keep it working. So you can see point to point, twice over, nice and bold, nice and confident. The other thing that does is it gives you something to work to. You've got 2 lines there, 2 confident lines. You can fill that in then, and you know you're getting it nice and crisp. And then I'm going from the next point again. Straight away you can see this lettering starting to really stand out. And the spacing's right, the letters are all even. You know, your lettering doesn't have to be even. One letter can be big, one letter can be small. But for the sake of this, I just wanted to give you guys that chance to understand that it's really important that they have some what we would call continuity. Now, the other thing as well is I've given myself an edge, and that's really important. My first pencil mark is giving myself a good edge. Same over here, I'm giving myself an edge so that my lettering doesn't drift too far off my paper. I'm just carrying on here. So these ones are just super bold. In my next workshop, I'm going to be showing you some techniques to make the lettering more exciting, more interesting. And I'll add a few tricks on this as well. Okay, so I'm just going to carry on with my lettering, guys. I just wanted to move the camera so you guys could see a slightly different angle on the lettering, kind of see what I'm doing. But it's much of the same, just more bold lines, more sketching, and making sure that insides of my letters really match up. If this is a huge triangle here, it's just not going to really work. Now these sort of curvy lines like on this C here, they can be the ones that kind of cause you the most issue. But just go nice and steady. I'm keeping this part of my hand on the paper at all times, which means you might get quite sort of like a dirty hand from the pen, but it just allows you to really get that crispness. And you can hear from the pen how hard I'm kind of pressing down. So again, that's why it's nice to have card instead, because you can just go with a bit of pressure just to keep your hands nice and straight without shaking up stuff up too much. So same thing back this way. I'm going nice and bold, pressing down quite hard. I'm sketching in. Obviously you can like sharpen up your corners, especially if you're using paint pens and marker pens. You might want to just kind of make sure that any edges that look a little bit fluffy or a bit loose, you're just sharpening them up a bit. And as you can see, I don't know if you can see this hand, hopefully you can, but I'm holding my paper nice and steady with the other hand to stop it from slipping out from under me, especially when I'm pressing down hard to get the line work I want. And sometimes I'm lifting my hand up, I'm kind of moving this part of my palm just to give my hand the right angle. I'm not moving the paper very much, I'm not trying to move anything around. I'm just always kind of keeping my hand as close as possible. So there we kind of got our basic letters, right? So what I'm going to quickly do, I'm just going to take my rubber and rub out some of my sketch lines, just to see where I'm at, see if I've made any mistakes. I mean, when you're sketching, guys, it doesn't matter if your pencil lines are still kind of in. You know, this isn't your final piece of artwork. If you were going to do a final piece of artwork that you were going to show or you were super proud of, then you'd be really much, maybe work a bit slower, make sure all of your pencil marks are gone. But if this is just your sketch, just to kind of keep sketching away, and I would suggest that anyone who's interested in graffiti art or anything like that is sketching every day and just sketch. Don't worry too much about the quality of your sketches, but just get used to sketching letters and just keep going, or characters or whatever you're into. But that sort of idea of just, sort of taking my pen marks across, but that's okay. Doesn't really matter. We can mess about with that in a minute. Maybe blowing would have been a better technique, but never mind. We can use our, I'm going to go with Sharpie, like a slightly more detailed pen. I'm going to start crisping up my edges. Getting rid of some of those mistakes. And then we can actually, like, sometimes, like, my favourite thing is that you'll have things like happy accidents. Like, I just smudge that across then. And it's just like, okay, well, that could be a problem where you rip it up and get frustrated. Or you just use it to your advantage. And I always think, use it to your advantage a bit. Maybe I'll just put some of those lines in the letters. And then straight away, I'm kind of going on to some of what we'll do in workshop 2, which is just make the lettering a little bit more dynamic with some pattern and some effects. I'm just making those letters look like they've got little cracks in or little lines, or are they made out of wood, or are they made out of stone, you know? It's just like a nice little thing to do. And that's all just because I kind of made a mistake when I was rubbing out and I hadn't let my pen dry. But what you're going to do, you get frustrated, or you're just going to use it and kind of take your little inspiration from wherever you're doing it. You see how those sharper corners just make this all kind of come together nicer. So I'm looking to triangulate those corners as much as possible. You know, I always go with a kind of strong coloured outline on my letters, because I just think when you start adding colour, any colour that you want to use is going to kind of work if you've got a black outline on your letters. You know, you can't really go too far wrong. The only thing I would say is that when you're colouring is just don't then use black too much inside the letters for your colouring. Just use it for effect or for when you're embellishing your lettering. And straight away that starts to start looking quite crisp, it's quite nice. You can see here this E is not matching up, so it's hard to kind of explain, but this part here is too far over, so I'm thinking about evening that up, just to make sure that the balance is right on the letters. Balance is really important for lettering in graffiti. You want your letters to have balance, you want them to have proportion, you want them to make sense. So if your P is like 4 times the size of your E, it can work, but you know, really, is it just going to add confusion to what you're trying to say? Because ultimately you want your lettering to be readable, legible, from like as if someone was looking at it from really far away. And you know, with graffiti writers, when they're painting, you know, when they were painting things that were maybe moving, or they were painting places maybe where they shouldn't have been, and they really wanted that lettering to be bold and readable, maybe sort of so that you could see their name in like 5 seconds, you know, and really take it on board. So that kind of like takes us to our basic sketch. So just want to have a quick look at that. So obviously you can still see some of our pencil marks, but it's kind of all making sense. I think like we're sort of getting somewhere. And then if I just start to show you some colour work, just very simple colour work, I think that'll help sort of shape up. It shows you don't need lots of tricks. You just need it to be bold and bright. So I'm just going to go in with a few different colours just to sort of give you that idea. Now, what I'm going to do, because I'm using felts, is I'm going to actually mark out the areas that I want to stay white inside my letters. And I'm just going to go to the right hand side of every letter and just put an area that's going to stay white. And this is basically a bit like a kind of highlight, like the letter's going to have a bit of a shine on it. But this is the bit where you can kind of start to really explore, and you don't have to worry too much about the rules. Just get colour in there, get lots of different colours in there. And as I say, as long as that colour's not black and it makes your lettering confusing, you can use every colour under the rainbow in every letter if you want. You know, you can literally kind of go wild and just use a lot of decent colours. So I'm kind of going with this green. Oh yeah, I'm in Brighton, so obviously you're going to be hearing some seagulls going on, and my guy that's helping me with the filming's just reminded me that there'll be some background noise. Brighton in the summertime, seagull galore, so you can't escape them, you can't avoid them. Everyone else on the south coast in Sussex is going to know all about that too. So now I'm just choosing that colour, and I'm just going to start blocking in. Now, go steady, go careful. Try to stay within the lines. I like to work in a line like that for my lettering, just to kind of, I go around my edging where I've done my outline. You know, if you want to, guys, as well, you can do this the other way around. You could do your pencil sketch, and then your colouring, and add all the colours you want to do, and then do the outline at the end. Either way is absolutely fine. I just kind of I wanted to show you guys what the outline looked like so you could really get to grips with that. But you could totally go the other way around and do the outline at the end. If you were doing graffiti on a wall with a spray can, that's definitely what you would do. You would do your sketch up first, and then you would think about adding your outline at the end as your finishing touches. So I'm just going to do different colour. So this might be quite light on the camera, but I'm just going with quite a bright yellow, just to see. And again, working nice and bold, nice and quick. Feel free to take your time, guys, though. There's no rush. You might want to just work it super slow like this. But me, I'm feeling confident. I'm going to work with confidence, so I'm just going to go straight in with those lines and kind of get it working how I want it. And already you can start to see that those letters are just coming alive, really. It is important. I know I made this mistake earlier. No harm you seeing me making some mistakes and that sort of thing. But if you've been working with a black pen, and then you're going with a wet felt tip next to it, you can get some smudge and some blur. So good idea. Stop yourself, go make a drink, let the black pen dry, and just come back to it after 5 or 10 minutes when you know that it's not going to smudge or blur your lettering too much. So you can see, just adding different colours. I'm kind of going with complementary colours here just to sort of make it work. So yellows and greens all kind of match up. No reason to do that. You can totally mix it up again and add detail with a completely opposite colour. So I've gone kind of neutral cold colours there, or natural colours. But then a few little details in a completely opposite colour are going to really make that letter ping off and really stand out. And I feel like my white's working quite well, and I don't need to get rid of that stuff, And you can just experiment. There's no right or wrong with this stuff. Just some lines, some dots, whatever you want to do. Then we can mix it up. Turn it around that way, and I'll do this letter around that way just so you guys can see. So again, because you've got that black outline, a really dark, strong colour like red still stands out quite well off it, Then you can be thinking about which colours are going to complement with the red. So I'm leaving myself some little spaces with white just because I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do with them yet. But if I leave those spaces, then I'm going to kind of be able to kind of make that work. So hopefully that's all on camera. Looking all right?
Yeah.
Cool. So again, I'm just working through. But yeah, it's fine to totally mix it up. Yellows, reds, the whole, as I say, all the colours of the rainbow is going to look great. Again, working nice and bold, nice and confidently. And this just gives you an idea, and we're basically using the exact same principles we would use if we were using spray paint. We'd have our paints, we'd have our colours, we'd have our outline colour, we'd have our white. Our white spray paint would probably be this highlight, and we would add that last. But this way we're kind of just getting all those colours in. And the beauty of using like a black pen is I can kind of almost go over it a little bit without it really showing up, because the black outline is so bold in comparison that it starts to kind of like, it doesn't really show. It's not going to make too much difference. And then by using a lighter colour felt next to the red, same thing applies. I'm not being super careful of going over the lines there, because I know that the red is going to mask the orange that I'm using. And yeah, if you're looking in super detail, you'll see a few mistakes, you'll see a few bits not filled in right. Just take your time, come back to it. And I think we're already starting to see that it's shaping up nice. Let's go with bigger yellow, I think. I'm going to do like a half break on the letter. So I'm going to start with the yellow at the top of the letter and then go into a complementary colour at the bottom. Almost like you would do like a fade. Maybe we can even try a fade in a second. So I'm going to go with a really bright sort of fluorescent like Sharpie here, or Sharpie sort of like highlighter pen. And again, because I'm going next to that black, I can almost run into it a little bit, but I do need to be careful of the smudging, like you can see. And then the green is still being picked up, it's not going over that. And then what we can kind of do is run those two colours into each other a little, creating that effect of a fade a little. So I'm going to grab the original colour, just lightly work that in. And there's not a lot of difference between them, but it just gives that idea of an effect working, you know. Just add some more, I guess, depth to what you've been working on. Maybe a shadow on the letter that's going over the top. Okay, let's mix it up. See how these guys are working. Okay, these colours aren't as strong. Now I kind of like it when a felt tip is running out. I know, again, that's the sort of thing that would frustrate people. But I just think you, again, use these little things to your advantage. If the felt tip's running out, it gives you a different effect. By just, as you can see, it's getting lighter and lighter as I go. And I'm just using that to help me out. Maybe this one's going to be a little bit stronger. No, still not. That's all right. I can just work it, starts to look more like a colouring pencil or something like that. But just let your sketching be when you're experimenting and kind of giving things a go. Because what I can do with this now, go back to my highlighter and run it right over the top. And what would have been my disadvantage of a pen running out starts to play into a bit of an advantage, really, because your greens complement your yellows and it just starts to look like you knew what you were doing in the first place, which is no bad thing. So one thing we're going to look at as well, guys, is this idea of background, foreground, and what's out front and what sits in the middle. So this idea that every piece of graffiti you do is going to have a background, a middle distance, and then a foreground. So I'm going to keep sketching away on this and then I'll show you guys what I mean if I've got a bit of time, but it'll be the last thing I'll probably show you in this workshop. So this lettering is in our foreground. This is at the very front, and our paper is our background. So it's quite nice to break that up with something in the middle distance. So we're going to go do more about this another day, but I'm just going to do just something in the background, a little bit on the letters, just to give us that middle distance. Straight away we can see that we're making our lettering stand out even better with some background stuff. And this is just like some little circles, some little clouds. I'm just following the shape of that outline of the letter. Even if it's just a few dots, you know, that stuff looks like it's complementing the letters, and just kind of working to make our lettering stand out. So our white page is our background, the blue lines and effects and dots are our middle distance, and our bold lettering with its outline is in the foreground. And that's kind of like the three main things that a lot of visual arts will always have in them. So when you look at any painting or anything like that, that's one of the things that people are often trying to do. I think we're kind of getting there, guys, with our first just simple. And believe it or not, this is just simple. This is basic. I know it seems complicated, but you can't go too far wrong with that outline, that sketch, that spacing, good dark outline colour, and some nice complementary colours to work. And you'll start to see that it kind of has, yeah, positive effect on it. Okay. I'm feeling like that's kind of there. Just, oh, one last little bit. Oh, there's always something. You always miss something. Nice. The other thing is to know when to stop, right? So here we are. So now what you guys are thinking of that, but nice and simple, nice and bold. We've used the white to highlight our letters. That is just a page. We haven't added white. Lots of different colours going on. And I don't know, nice message, nice simple word, and we kind of got our first basic graffiti sort of a sketch done. Thanks, guys. Okay, guys, just quickly before we go, I'm just going to go with how, I'm now 25 years into being a graffiti artist, and I can sketch with confidence. So I wanted to show you how I wanted you to practice. But for me, I'm just going to do you another super quick outline just to give you an idea about how I'm sketching and how quickly I'm sketching when I'm working away. So again, I'm going to choose another word at random, and I'm going to choose the word life because it's nice letters again. And just like show you how quickly I'm working when I'm sketching and how many sketches I'm doing. So I'm just working super bold. And then this one's going to have a few more effects in it, a few more sort of tricks going on. So we get a different pen. That's better. And you can see like from just practice, and then I stop worrying about whether I need to do my pencil spacing or anything like that, because I just kind of know now where my parameters are, where the edge of the paper is. I know where I'm at. Again, doesn't matter if you're making a few mistakes because this is just your guide. You can go uppercase, lowercase letters mixed together. No rules with graffiti like that. No one's saying you've got to even spell your words right. If you wanted that I could be a Y, because that would still look like the word life. This is just your thing. I'm going to throw a little 3D on the letters, a little offset 3D. Just to show you how like you can still be bold and impactful really, really quickly once that confidence is up. And you can see like my letters are doing a thing what we call tick-tocking. So this letter's facing that way, the F's going off that way, the I's kind of coming down, the L's going that way. So the letters are kind of, it's almost like they're jostling for attention a little bit. With the piece one I did over here, you can see the letters were all straight up. But what we're going to look at is how you can kind of make letters give them movement. You want them to be as dynamic as possible if it's graffiti. So you're thinking about which angle's going to complement, but which one's going to make it look like, those letters look like they're almost like in a queue, like, or in a, I don't know, or kind of like in a lineup for a free kick or something. They're all kind of jostling next to each other, fighting for attention. And that's what you want. You want it to look powerful, impactful, bold. And again, my black pen's just so valuable to me when I'm doing this stuff, because it just immediately kind of makes everything break out. Switch up to a slightly smaller pen, same as I would do if I was spray painting. I'm just adding a few little lines and tricks, and already that's starting to come to life. We'll do some more about this in the next workshop, but just wanted to give you guys another quick idea. Your sketches don't have to be perfect and full colour. They can just be really quick, one line dynamic things. Just keep your hand moving, keep everything working. Keep everything curved. Keep some things straight, some things bubbling. some things overlapping, you know, that's all we're trying to do, is just keep working that hand and just keep trying new things. All right, guys, enjoy. Come back for workshop 2 and we'll do some real tricks off the letters. Build on what we're doing here so you can get some real nice ideas about how to trick your letters out with different techniques, bubbles, cracks, shines, drips, all of the different things to make your lettering just really come to life. Thanks, guys. I'll see you soon.